The bear and the orc had been hunting each other for about 12 years now. Season after season, every chance they'd get, they'd cross paths, and they'd take a go at each other. Now, the orc could have taken the bear on with the bow, but that didn't seem fair, because the bear couldn't shoot back. So the orc went at the bear with an axe in each hand, figuring it balanced out the claws. He kind of thought the bite maybe was a freebie. They'd get a lick in here and there, but there was no clear winner. But one hard winter, the orc hadn't seen the bear go into hibernation. Hadn't seen him for a few weeks. Was curious. Maybe the old bear finally gave up. Maybe the old bear just wasn't going to make it till spring. So he took a couple of weeks. He did find him. He found the den. It was buried deep in snow. He dug his way in. It was a pretty big den. He was a big bear. As soon as he got there, he could smell the bear, and he knew he was in the right place. But as he got in further, there was a sickly sweet smell. The smell of rot. And when he got there, the bear wasn't in good shape. There was a festering wound, and there was a broken arrow shaft on the floor of the den. The bear wasn't asleep. He was breathing ragged. His eyes were open, and he was looking at the orc. There didn't seem to be much fight left in him. Orc stepped closer, half crouched. It was a big den. And bear didn't get up. Didn't make a swipe. Just kept looking at him. The orc drew a knife. Got closer. He didn't know if the bear understood what was going on. Then the bear did something. The bear did something that bears don't do. The bear looked him right in the eyes, and the bear nodded. It wasn't a twitch. It wasn't a yawn. It was a nod. Bears don't do that. So in one clean, swift blow, the orc cut the bear's throat. The knife was sharp. He probably never felt a thing. He stood back, half crouched, while the bear bled out. He watched the light in that bear's eyes go out. And when it finally winked out for good, the bear began to ripple, shrink, until lying on the floor of that den wasn't a bear at all. It was a man, human, dressed a whole lot like the orc. And on his hands was a gold ring, which slid off his finger and landed on the stone with the chink. And this time the orc nodded. He picked up the ring and put it in his pocket. He picked up the arrow shaft. There was no chance trying to bury the man at this point. The ground was frozen solid and would be for months. The cave, the den, would be the tomb. So he got himself out, went back to his cabin. He spent the rest of the winter fixing up the cabin. He got to one meetup with the other mountain folks. Asked around about the arrow. Got some leads on who he thinks it might have belonged to. And he waited. Stocked up the cabin with wood. Made sure everything was nice and tight and dry. And the orc waited until the bushes were full of berries. And then he closed up the cabin. He walked outside into the valley outside his place, naked as jaybird, with the ring in the palm of his hand. and they very deliberately put it on his finger. At first, nothing happened, but then there was an itch on his back. And then he could see the fur rolling over his shoulders and down his arms, across his torso and his legs. He started getting taller. His arms getting bigger. His hands morphing into paws and his fingers into claws. And then the gold ring disappeared. And in a moment, it was just a bear. Suddenly everything was a lot simpler. The world smelled so incredibly wonderful. So many things that he'd never known were there were suddenly present. And amongst all the smells that he could pick up, there was one scent in his head. He didn't know how it was there, but it was the scent of the hunter that fired that arrow that had been tipped with poison. And the bear dropped to all fours and felt the power ripple as the muscles shook. And he started sauntering through the valley, his valley, because there wasn't anything in here from nature that was a danger to that bear. And he had a place to go. He's going to find that hunter. There's going to be a reckoning. So this video was inspired by something humorous I read on the internet recently. Apparently someone had a 3-year-old child, and the child had been given the task at a wedding of being a ring bearer. But to the mind of the 3-year-old, he interpreted ring bearer as ring bear, and growled at everyone while walking down the aisle, including the groom, which I'm sure was quite endearing. So that idea, a ring bear, is where this video idea came from. So what you have here is both a curse and a blessing. It's a ring that turns you permanently into a bear, a brown bear, grizzly, Kodiak, what have you. And they're really quite dangerous. And it's not quite exactly the animal. You're a magical beast. You're not truly a straight up animal. Now, the Pathfinder rules for this make it a CR4 creature. It's got 5 hit dice. So it's going to have 5 racial hit dice, which are going to come along with some skill points and some feats, things like that. But I would not have the intelligence penalized quite as much as a normal bear. So what I would do is I would give it a strength of +10, +2 to dex, and a +8 to con, and a -6 to intelligence. So if you're of average intelligence, say if you get a 10 or 11, you're still going to be twice as intelligent as a normal bear that normally has an intelligence score of only 2. You're going to have one that's a 4 or 5. So that makes you considerably smarter. And once you get beyond the 5 racial hit dice, there's no reason that you couldn't actually have character levels. Of course, you're probably not going to want to be a spellcaster of any variety. This is really well suited to like a barbarian or a ranger or a fighter. Those are really the primary classes for this. And let's face it, being a brown bear that was a barbarian would be quite cool. The orc in this particular example is a ranger. So I would have some slight difference than a straight bear, but not overwhelmingly unbalanced in my book. So again, this is it's 6 of one, half and dozen of the other. It'd be kind of cool to be a bear, but you're large, you do have reach, and you take up a lot of space, but let's face it, you're not going to be able to go everywhere that you want to go if you are a bear. They're big. Most places aren't going to allow you to bring a bear into a city or a settlement. Some of the more rural areas may let you have your bear in the barn or outside, things like, under some kind of a lean-to, but you're not going to get a place by the hearth in a hotel or a tavern, and no city is going to let you bring a bear like this in unless it's in a cage as part of some kind of a circus or a carnival or something. Um, but I like the idea of a magic item that turns you permanently into an animal. Then it has its pluses and minuses. I could see this being attracted to some people. They might like the idea that they maybe they had planned all along of playing a relatively low intelligence barbarian, and this is at least more interesting. You got weapons focus you can take. You can take improved natural attack to get your claws up there, and to take it again to get your bite up there. Um, and while you cannot put equipment on, it doesn't mean you can't have companions put equipment on. And there is a Pathfinder animal slot list for magic items. So you could have, well, the most common ones are going to be like bracers. That would probably enhance your attacks. A collar would both give you a necklace or something to give you better armor class or better attack bonuses, things like that. And there are some things, and there actually are armor. You could do the whole um, golden compass thing with an armored bear, and here you go. So I think there's a lot of options available if you wanted to play a bear, or obviously this could be adapted to some other animal. I mean, I'm just using a bear because I thought the story was cute, and I happen to be really fond of bears. It's one of my favorite animals, and if I were going to have a totem, it would be a bear. I remember once I was at a store one day and they had a deck of cards next to the register, and the idea was you pick the card up and see what you chose. And I picked the part. I just flipped and I fanned them out and I picked one at random, and it was a bear. And my ex looked at me and said, "Of course." I always like that. So tell me, what animal would you use for this particular thing? Would you be willing to play a bear? Do you think it might be fun to have that as an option? And I know I ripped off the whole poison bear storyline from Wolverine. You don't have to tell me that. I know I stole it from there. It's not original from there either. I'm sure somebody else wrote that, came up with that idea long before, but that's the one that popped in my head when I came up with this idea, was Logan hunting down the guy that poisoned the bear because the bear became enraged and caused a bunch of damage and hurt people and stuff. Um, so yeah, I know the connection. So yeah, you don't have to remind me. So let's talk about magic rings and magical beasts and what you would do with a ring that turns you into a bear.